If you're watching, please do share the live, share it on other platforms, because the woman that's here in our midst today is worth every minute that you're going to be spending with us. She's someone worth knowing. When I talk about phenomenal women in the diaspora, trust me, she's on top of that list. When I tell you she's on top of that list, you guys know I never lie. I tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. So help me God. Okay? When I talk about women who advocate for issues of top priorities for our communities, whether it's for immigrants, for women, for the voiceless, for children, you name it, she's the one. She's gone to high places to fight for us, for our community. She's been to Congress, to the Senate, to the White House. You name it, she's done it all. And I could not be prouder today to have a guest to share this moment. So my beloved sister, on behalf of Johnny, who's not here, I want to welcome you to the Mojo Show. So Leonie, at this time, I'm going to ask you to please, I took very little time to just give them a little snippet of who you are. But at this time, I'm going to ask you, please go into details. Tell them who's this wonderful woman, this phenomenal woman that I'm introducing briefly, well, in detail, in your own words.
Thank you, and bonsoir tout le monde. Good afternoon. Finally, I'm feeling in balance because I was like, why do they never invite me? You know, I've got all these friends in high places in New York, and I'm never invited.
This so I'm finally, this is your house. This is your house.
I'm feeling in balance now. But I'm Leonie HERMANTIN. I am the daughter of Fernand and Girard, Fernand Scott and Girard HERMANTIN. And I have to mention them because I am who I am because of them. My parents, my father, died a few years ago. And my mother is still alive, and my parents were absolute activists. If anybody, from the cradle, I was taught about fighting against injustice. From the cradle, I was told that I stand on shoulders. From the cradle, I was told that to whom much is given, much is expected. My mother, I have to say, I was, instead of lullabies, I was told stories about the revolution of 46, where my mother would tell me proudly that she joined the fight against racism in Haiti. And so, and she told me about all the groups that she belonged to, the literary circles that she belonged to. When I was a child, I went to the Centre d'Art, where I was exposed to Haitian artists who are now the masters. One of the biggest sense of awareness about color was to see the artist called Simil, who painted like really black outlines of black women, like dark black ebony, and then he adorned them with jewelry. And that was, at 7 or 8, it was like my first awakening of this concept that black is beautiful. And for a long time, for a long time, I thought that my color was black.
Wow.
Really?
Interesting.
I grew up for a long time thinking I was as black as this until somebody once, put her skin against mine. She said, no, you're not. And I was like in shock because I was in such awe by the beauty of the blackness presented by Simil that I said, it has to be me. So it was very, I owe a lot to my parents.
Wow.
In terms of that, I was encouraged to read Malcolm X when I was, 11, even in Haiti. My mother would encourage me to read Malcolm X. So I grew up in a very privileged household, privileged in the sense that I was really exposed to things that I don't know. I mean, I don't know what happened in other Haitian households, but I suspect that not too many of my contemporaries were exposed to that level of engagement, of parents who told them that there's something beyond you are a privileged girl. You grow up, you go to private schools, you travel, you're very privileged. But understand that this is not, my father would pull us out sometimes and say, we were swimming, we had a swimming pool at our house, and he'd pull us out and say, look. And I'm looking like, what am I looking at? And these were little kids walking with water over their heads. And my father said, do you understand? You have so much water that you're swimming in a swimming pool. And these little kids who are underfed don't have water, not even to drink or bathe, they have to carry. So, that's me. You asked me to describe who I am, the essence of who I am. Yes, in my trajectory in life, I met a lot of great people who helped me understand what my calling was, what my passion was, and to channel it into productive endeavors. But the core of who I am is really, from home.
Wow.
That's.
We're going to talk about what you do in a minute, but I want to stop by asking you about your role model. I know you're going to be inclined automatically to say your mom, because till this day, what amazes me with mom is that, you would expect teenagers to be on social media. Millennials swear they're it when it comes to social media. But it's interesting till this day that your mom is so involved. She's so on top of her game. It is no surprise that you are the woman that you are, okay?
No, it's not.
I mean, she sits there with her newspaper. Yes. She knows what's going on in the community. She knows who's running for office. Yes. I mean, she knows who's running for what district, okay? She'll tell you who she's voting. And you go on social media, all of this is there. It's like, okay, mom.
And she's passionate. No, that's always been her. It's always been, I can't, I have to tell you, I remember, I have the stories of my mother. I slapped a maid once when I was maybe 7. And, in other places, I've seen people laugh at that. When a child slaps a servant, people laugh. My mother was like, why did you do that? And I said, well, what's the big deal? My grandmother was upset. And I told her, well, what's the big deal? She's just a maid. So my mother put me in the car and drove me in a journey through her own history. And she said, you see that neighborhood? And it was just poor people living in that neighborhood. And I was like, yeah. And she said, well, that's where I grew up. Then drove further down to the market. I don't know which market that was, where market women had their panier and the rabou. And she said, that's where your grandmother's mother made, sold enough to secure our trajectory up to Pétionville. So you are no better than the maid. She's not just a maid, she's a woman. My mother taught me that at the age of 7. So if there's any, the role models were in my family, whether it was, the women who came from Arcaïa, my grandmother's cousins, with rolls of money in their bras.
Oh my God.
The Mother Sarah, the Machan who came from Arcaïa. Yal la go nag, yal achete poisson, yo vin pou prince, ap fait tout gros roulement l'argent. I watched, my grandmother was sort of this, now she had become, this middle class woman. And yet she still had her sisters, cousins, all these women folks who came from Arcaïa. Ap fait gros brassage l'argent. Again, I saw these women with rolls of money, like throwing it. So these are my role models. I can tell you other women who were my role models, but no one shaped my understanding of who I am as a woman in terms of my power as a woman. No one. I saw women build houses. They had no degrees. They just surrounded themselves by people who knew. I saw women do extraordinary things. And they're all women from my family. They were doctors, lawyers, market women. All this spectrum, this is who I am. Mambo. I have my grandmother was a very devout Catholic, but hey, when we were sent home, we went set, to spend the summers, we got initiated in certain things that my grandmother would not want to talk about publicly. But that's also part of who I am. That's the sum total of who I am, and that's what makes me who I am today.
So let's talk about what you do. Let's talk about what you do, because it's like you do so much. In my view, where do you start? Where do you start, and how do you articulate it in a sense that our current generation of women or girls who are listening to you right now, that there's a lesson for them to learn?
Well, it
They
starts
can
with a
look at
passion.
you and say, wow.
It starts with a passion. You have to love what you do. You have to love service. And my passion is to serve. But my passion is also one that doesn't believe in doing it alone. I don't believe in I'm going to be the savior. I don't believe in the savior complex, that I'm doing this to save people. And so what I do is that, and what I've done for a long time, is that I have been part of groups of women. I don't do anything alone. I don't do anything for the glory. I don't do anything for gratitude.
I'm with you.
I believe in supporting people who are doing work.
And I'm sure you can understand why you and I are in love with each other. We've loved each other forever, because our views are very much the same in that sense.
So to the extent that my work is complementary, so the power of my work, the power of what I do is that I work in complementariness. I am not the lone savior. I'm not seeking glory. My glory, my absolute joy is to see things advance and to know that I had this little role to play. It's like I see something happen and I'm like, oh, I was part of that. Not that I did it by myself, but yes, I was part of that movement. And so that's, to me, that's the key of who I am. And a lot of people don't understand. We were talking about that the other day. A lot of people don't understand. They're like, why don't you start your own organization? Why don't you do things on your own? Why don't you get credit? And I'm like, I am getting credit.
You know what? Somebody called me 2 weeks ago and said, Mona Lisa, when are you going to stop being the bridesmaid? When are you going to have your own wedding? Kilo ap 6 man fekete de mariage mon Mona Lisa, kilo ap marié. Meaning, when are you going to run for office? When are you going to stop following these politicians? And right now, I'm in Georgia. Okay,
He's a queen.
Okay, and it's like people are upset that I'm in Georgia trying to get, help out with the, that Senate race. What are you doing in Georgia, Mona Lisa? You're in everybody's business, but you should be trying to get in. Thanks for I appreciate you, but I don't mind. I mean, whatever it takes to, push the movement.
You have to have chiefs and you have to have soldiers. Not everybody can be a chief. And if you're a chief in whatever role that you are, that you play in the scheme of things, then do it well so that the chiefs can look good. Because when the chiefs look good, we all look good. That's my belief.
Absolutely. Absolutely. That's my belief. So, Leonie, having said that, let's talk about Suntla, where you're operating today. And I'm sure the comments that we just shared just now about you being the chief and why don't you start your own why don't you have your own center? Okay. And tell us about your position there and how does that make you feel to be working there and then doing what you do?
Actually, I'm here today because I'm working on Sunfly's Gala. Virtual. Next Saturday, I'm plugging it 7 o'clock. I was one of the co-founders of Suntla, along with like 20 other Haitian leaders who thought that there was a need for an organization such as Suntla to provide information to the community, and referral and guidance to the community. So, the fact that Suntla for the past 20 years is an organization whose mission is to empower, strengthen, and uplift the Haitian community. From the onset, the executive director has been Gypsy Metellus, an incredible, incredible woman whose vision and determination and skills have grown this organization with the support of the board of directors, of course, has grown this organization from, a small three-person. When we started, it was Gypsy, the secretary, and I. It was from a three-person organization to having a staff of over 20 people providing services that are essential to the community: employment, financial literacy, parenting, access to benefit, healthcare, food stamps, citizenship. We are becoming a hub for early childhood education. And what we do is that we constantly assess the needs. And as we assess the needs, we look at what is within our scope, within what is within the scope of our mission. And if it is,
Okay.
then we go after it. So we are creating a hub. We have a lot of parents who come here to our parenting program, but we haven't taken care of the 0 to 5. So right now, we are really focusing on the 0 to 5, just to educate our community about the importance of early childhood education and access to services for their early learners. We are also, during the pandemic, at the beginning of the pandemic, when everyone was pivoting um, to work remotely, we did that for about a week. And then we realized our community has not pivoted. you know, we have all the equipment, but they got nothing because let me tell you something: 37% of the people who live in our community of our Haitian American, Haitian residents don't have access to the internet. And so
Mm.
to say that, oh yeah, you can go apply for unemployment at your on your laptop at home or by phone, when you have folks with English issues, literacy issues, people who can't read, that is not
Mm-hmm.
possible. So we had to
Mm-hmm.
say, we're essential workers. Just like people have to go to the hospital, nurses have to go to the hospital, we have to come to the office to assist people in applying for unemployment, applying for. So, it was a huge decision that we had to make, both as the board, as the executive director, and as the staff, to say this disease is coming. We don't know what the hell it's going to bring. Uh, and we're going to be exposing ourselves to at least seeing 60 people a day
Mm-hmm.
coming in, and it still happens today. I mean, if you come in early in the morning here, you'll see people lining up around the building because that's where they come, for information. That's where they come for services. And so that's who we are. We are driven. Our mission is to serve the community, and service means with respect, and as we like to say, with dignity. People can
Thing.
come in looking like they just came from the countryside. We don't laugh at them. We don't tell them to step. It's Mr., Miss, Monsieur, Madame. We don't call anybody
Absolutely.
chérie. C'est
They're
Monsieur,
human.
No, but we have to. There are our clients. We have to serve them, and
They
so
are monsieur.
yes, and so that's who we are.
Mm-hmm.
And for me, um, I have had the absolute. I have been blessed that I've had the opportunity for the past 30 years to work within the context of my passion, whether it's in Miami or in Haiti. I've always had work that, one, I worked for Haitians. I worked for Haitians. I always worked with my board was always Haitian, whether it was the Lumbee Fund of Haiti, where I worked in rural communities, whether it was ProDev, where I worked in Haiti with education, and
Yes.
SAPLA.
For those days.
It's always been working in with Haitians and teams and in teams.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
in teams
Leonie,
with.
I have this hot burning question. Tell us, share your experience being that spokesperson on our behalf in Congress, representing us in Congress.
Whew,
What was that experience like?
that was scary. That was really, because I told you, I'm the backstage person. I much prefer to stand back and prepare people, do press releases, do what I have to do on my end, but
Mm-hmm.
send you out there to do your thing. So when I was asked to do it, I was like, oh, see, Lord Jesus. So what I did is that I asked everybody. I really made sure that, um, I called Johnny. Johnny was on speed dial.
Oh yeah, he's good. I'm
Johnny,
telling. Listen,
Johnny.
let's not get started with the Johnny thing, because bro, seriously, you can
I
understand
harassed,
why he's
I
co-host.
harassed that poor man. I harassed him that weekend. I went to the Haitian American Professional Coalition. I went to different groups and I asked them for what are the issues that are important to you. I knew that I would not be able to speak on behalf of all Haitians. So that was one of my first opening statements, that while I'm not speaking on behalf of everyone, particularly when it comes to Haiti, I can say that we all agree on certain things. We may not agree on
Mm,
how to solve them, but we agree that the violence offends us, that the poverty puts us in great distress. So, I was able to say things that um, I felt and we all felt that we all could agree on as members of the diaspora. And then, I spoke my truth about what I felt were the important issues with Haiti. Again, dealing with violence, dealing with lack of opportunity, dealing with poverty, and most importantly for me, as a Haitian American, my major concern was what's happening on the U.S. side of things, because while we like to focus on the Haitian leaders, my concerns are that our taxpayers' money are being invested in failed practices, things that have failed 30 years ago. And my other concern, having worked in Haiti, was that there was no transparency. Our taxpayers' money are invested in Haiti, and we don't know what happens. For over 30 years, the US government has put in millions of dollars in reforestation in some places where there's not one tree standing today. Why?
mhm, mhm.
Why? I mean, I know that in some places they went and planted eucalyptus in Gonaïve, which is already semi, desert in some places. And you're gonna plant a tree that sucks every bit of water out of the soil. So we know that there were failed practices, but no one wants to be transparent. They tell us that this information is proprietary, we can't share them. So that was basically my major concern. Is I don't think it's the role of the United States to meddle into Haitian politics. So I'm not going to tell you what to do with our politicians in Haiti, but I'm going to tell you that I'm concerned about how you're investing our money in Haiti, and why we're not privy to the information about why they work, why they failed, and why you keep throwing good money after bad.
Mm. But is it, when we talk about diaspora engagement, should it really be our job to fix what's going on in Haiti? Because I mean, our this past presidential campaign, our deep involvement in that campaign, and everybody's stepping up to a lot of us who worked on that campaign. All right, guys, what now? You guys were part of this campaign, so what are you doing next? What are you guys going to do with Haiti? What's on the agenda? And those
Yes, it
are the
is our
questions.
job. It is our job. It is our job. For those of us who still have, I mean, I support a couple of girls' education in Haiti. I am, I don't know what to tell these kids. I don't know what that I'm telling them. I'm throwing my money away and you're wasting your time because this country doesn't have a future for you. I'd be better off trying to get you to go to the DR to study. I don't know what to say. And my first, when I first started, because I started maybe 10 years ago supporting their education. And when I first, it was a contract with them and their family that I'm investing in Haiti. I don't want to hear that you want to leave. I'm investing in you because I'm investing in Haiti. I want you to be somebody in Haiti. Today, I don't know what to say to them. And I have today, frankly, if they told me, can you, instead of sending me the tuition money, send me money for a ticket to get the hell out, I would say, bet, here's the money. I think it's
Mm-hmm.
our response. We send money to Haiti. What is it? A third of the Haitian of the money circulating in Haiti comes from the diaspora. We have the right to speak. We have the right to amplify the voices of people who are still voiceless. The U.S. Embassy doesn't hear these voices.
They don't. They
They
absolutely
don't.
don't.
They don't
And
hear these voices. You have people who love democracy, people who want to stay in Haiti and make changes. These people are silenced. These people are killed. These people are isolated. We have to speak for them. I mean, talk about women. Talk about these women in Haiti who are getting raped, beat up. No, we have
yes,
to speak for them.
indeed, indeed, my sister, indeed, indeed, indeed. Remember, you and I have a date this evening with my
Yes.
with my group in Haiti.
I
You know,
mean,
we're going to
what?
this afternoon.
Okay, yes. So,
And
if
we are there. We hope. Can you could imagine a person like myself? I've been here in the States for 40 years, and I am still heavily engaged in Haiti. I'm in Haiti 3 times a week, teaching
yes,
remotely
wow,
on Zoom. When I don't have electricity, I'm on
wow,
WhatsApp teaching. These women put a
wow,
phone on a table just to watch me lecture. Okay,
wow,
I'm the only one they have in the region that they're in. Okay,
wow.
when
No, I
I'm
mean,
leaving them, when I'm ending the
it,
session, I'm saying I'll see you guys next, tomorrow, or I'll see you next week. They would say to me, Madam, Padi na we de mesi dieve, na we si gang yo vle,
wow.
na we si leta haisyen vle. How do you think I feel hearing this?
I mean, we have to speak.
We have
When we have to, we cannot say, and that's what distresses me about 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 the next generation. That is, I was born and raised in Haiti. Uh, for the kids who are not born in Haiti and who experience their Haitianness through food and music to some extent, caring about, they want to go back to Haiti, but
of
they don't
course.
want to necessarily be involved. They want to go back to a place. I mean, I've watched these kids go to Haiti. I've seen their, Facebook posts. It's about, yeah, this is Haiti too. Haiti is not just about poverty. Haiti is about beauty. I mean, they just want to bring out the beauty of Haiti. And I understand. I understand, but I also feel that, kids have to understand that this beauty, they will never be able to experience the full beauty of Haiti if they're still going to be called to task about its poverty.
Mm-hmm.
When my son went to college, you know, he thought that he was some uppity Haitian guy, like
Mm-hmm.
upper class, whatever Haitian. And when he got to college, his friends, the missionaries, were talking to him about children starving in Haiti. And he was like, "What are you, what?" And I said, "Well, yeah, this is the other side of Haiti. That unfortunately, them telling you about your grandparents didn't necessarily tell you all of the story, but this is the other side of Haiti, and you you need to know that, not through their lenses." And that's when he really began he actually went to Haiti to live there for a month. But you know, it's something that they get involved as I say in charity events. They go one trip, feed children, bring presents, come back, and they still don't understand, you know, the Petro Caribbean movement. They don't know how to get involved, and that's sort of what I'm looking for. Opportunities to get young people involved in Haiti without risking their lives, but also amplifying the voices of other young people in Haiti who are trying to make a difference.
I'll tell you what my biggest fear is. I'm afraid you and I are around the same age, and I'm
I'm
afraid after our
older.
generation.
I'm older.
No, you're not. No, you're not.
I'm older.
I'm afraid
I'm
where
62, honey.
don't let my look fool you. So I'm afraid the generation of this diaspora is gone, that our children, my 32-year-old son, my 22-year-old daughter, and my 18-year-old, as much as they may love Haiti, the connection that we've tried to establish between them and Haiti is not going to be the same.
And you know,
That's
and
my big.
that's my argument with the groups in Haiti. I'm like, you know,
Mm-hmm.
you guys are always communicating in French and Creole. You must communicate in English. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
that's my
Mm-hmm.
big fight with the women's group, the you know, the Petro Caribe group, the Nupap Domi. I'm like, you cannot do it in English and French alone. You have
Mm-hmm.
because that these kids understand social justice movements. They're involved in it here. They're in Black Lives Matters. They are in whatever, but they're not gonna get you if you write a manifesto in Creole. They may
That's right.
understand a couple of words, but they're not going to read it. They're certainly not going to understand the French. So I think that part of the problem is also that Haiti is not making the effort to connect with these kids around the language issue. You know, because English should be something that all these movements in Haiti adopt, embrace, so that young people in the diaspora can understand when somebody says Haitian lives matter, it's the same cry for social justice as when we say here Black Lives Matter.
Absolutely. 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 Well, my dear, I know you have a
Have
lot
to
on your
go.
plate. Your schedule is always over overly busy as usual, just like
I'm
mine.
at the
And
office today.
I know in about 2 hours you and I have to meet again because we're going to Jeremy this afternoon to meet with the women. So I'm going to release you, and
Okay.
so I can welcome my next guest. It was a
Okay.
pleasure having you.
Pleasure.
And Johnny, when Johnny returns, you owe us another visit. So,
Absolutely.
so I don't have so Johnny doesn't strangle me. Otherwise, it's gonna be a fight. We don't want to fight. So we gotta share belong to both of us. But
All
again,
right.
it was an honor to have you. Again, this
Thank
is your
you.
home, this is your house. Your name was on top of the list. But
Thank you.
we know how busy you've been, and with your load, we could not pull you away with your sister's campaign.
Thank
With Gypsy
you.
being running for office, there's no way we were going to pull you out.
And
We
the
were
census and the elections and
yes.
you
Okay,
name
so
it.
we wanted to make that a priority. Now that you're away from that,
Thank
today
you
was the
so
right
much.
time.
It was a pleasure. Merci beaucoup tout le monde. Un
I
gros
love you and
plaisir.
stay.
Okay. Bye bye.
Yes, ladies and gentlemen, this was Leonie HERMANTIN from St. La in Florida, and we are now ready to welcome Mr. Franz Bourget de Atlanta, Georgia. And Franz Bourget is the CEO for Bourget Financial. Franz is my brother. Franz is actually my accountant. Franz is my colleague from the United Front for the Haitian Diaspora. Franz and I have traveled to Haiti together as part of delegations who've met with some of our ex-presidents in Haiti. Franz, there's too much that I could say, that time doesn't permit because we have some heavy duty business to talk about this afternoon. We got work to do and we're going to get right down to business. But before we do that, in your own words, please tell our audience who you are and what you do, because I do definitely want them to know about who my brother is.
Well,
Welcome to the Mojo Influence. It's a pleasure to have you.
thank you so very much, Mona Lisa. I think you said it all. There's not much to add. I'm Franz Bourget. I'm here in Atlanta, Georgia. I've been here for about 40 years. I still consider myself as a New Yorker. So much that I'm pulling for the Giants, even though we're not going anywhere. But as Mona Lisa said, I am an accountant and I'm very involved in my community here in Atlanta. Um, as you guys know, right now, Atlanta is in the midst of the political universe of the United States because we have election coming up within the next couple weeks, where we can control the Senate because there are two Senate seats that we are voting for here in Atlanta, and we are hoping once we win those two seats, the Congress will be controlled by the Democrats, which will help um, President Biden push some of the programs that he's talking about. I listened to the lady that was speaking before with great attention, and she said a lot of things that touched my heart, which is the work that she's doing in Haiti, which is the involvement as a Haitian American and it's one of the reasons why we are fighting here in Georgia to ensure that these seats are controlled or by the Democrats, because we also have agendas that concerns not only the Haitian American but also what the issues that are going in Haiti right now. So again, I'm here with you to talk about Georgia, to talk about the elections, and where do we go from here? And again, it's a pleasure, as you said, talking to my sister, my client, and one of the folks that keep me on track when I'm not doing what I'm supposed to do.
First, let me tell you, talking to you is always an inspiration for me, as you know, again, because of our professional relationship. As founders, you and I can definitely call ourselves founders of the United Front for the Haitian Diaspora. The work that we've done is work that I continue to be proud of. Although my involvement is not as intense as it used to be, but I believe the foundation that you and I built together with Judge Leonie Jean-Baptiste from Chicago was so strong, is work that I, as the only woman back then among you guys, standing in the middle of all these pillars, I feel extremely proud. I feel valued by the respect that I earned from you guys. And it's like till today, we can always call each other. We remain cordial and respectful towards each other, and we trust each other. So whenever there's a need to mobilize, to work together for the cause of our people, we're always there, which is why, although I'm a New Yorker, but I find myself in your state right now. I mean, although frankly, you're a New Yorker, a native New Yorker yourself, as I always call you, a bootleg Haitian, because you swear you're Haitian, but you're born here. I'm the true Haitian, but that's besides the point. But today we find ourselves calling on every Haitian brothers and sisters across the diaspora to come to Georgia and get involved, because this is the last push that we need to do together so we can make sure we secure, our position in the White House to come and support the Biden-Harris presidency, government, I would say. So it doesn't matter what state. There's no type of boundaries really. So we have phone banking that's going on. We have multiple task that requires for our Haitian brothers and sisters across the diaspora to deeply get involved and come out and support you in this work that you guys are trying to achieve. So yesterday we had an activity, we had an event that was broadcasted on Facebook Live. If you can share with us, you know, how we came about, how we evolved as a group, and what is the purpose of this group, where we are and where we're trying to go, really.
Well, that's a very good question. And again, I must thank you for wanting to be with us. You know, for understanding the importance of a state right now, how it's related to us as Haitians, not only here in the U.S., like we said, but also in Haiti. We in Georgia, there are different groups, there are different folks here in Georgia, especially in Atlanta, that when you pick up the phone and say, "Hey, Haiti," and you will have a slew of them that stand up and put their arms, lock their arms together to ensure that whatever idea that you have, they're here with you, as long as we're talking about the betterment of our community. So what happened a couple of weeks ago, after the election in November or early November, and we realized that, whoa, we had a runoff. So what I had started doing maybe a month or so, a month and a half ago, was get involved with one of the radio stations here and try to educate our community about the voting process. Because a lot of times, unfortunately, you find many minority communities that they have this mindset: my vote doesn't count, it doesn't mean anything, why am I wasting my time? And again, the system does not um, encourage people to go vote, to be involved, because if you think about it, everybody works on Tuesdays. So why are we having election on Tuesdays? So right there, that shuts down a lot of people, the working class. So, but I found it necessary to again educate my folks. So when it came to um, the runoff, I started calling a couple folks, you know, and telling them, "Hey, look, we got to get involved. We got to get a presence in Atlanta, because some of the things that we need, we have to go to the elected officials to get those things. So if they know that we are here, if they know that we have a presence, if they know we can make a difference, it'll be much easier to, when we approach them on things that we need, that we'll be able to get it somewhat easier. Not guarantee that we'll get them, but it'll be easy and an easier process to do so. So I called one of my buddy, Sorel Ketan, and Sorel was doing the same on his side. You know, he had been working with HAV, he had been working with ISF for Biden and all, you know, all those different groups. So when I called him, he said, "Franz, I don't know, I can't tell you." Um, you know, he got emotional. He said, "Because I was doing the same." I said, "Well, let's bring our, energy together and see what we can do." And then next thing you know,
Let
here
me stop
comes
you
Mona
right there.
Lisa.
When he came, when he came, your name was the password. That's why he got welcome. Your name was the password.
Yeah, he comes Mona Lisa. I'm like, oh my God, he comes, you know, people from Florida, VOD, and all those guys that are involved in the electoral process. So again, we felt good that we can finally educate and mobilize our community. So we have, for example, tomorrow, December 7th, is the last day for registration if we want to be able to vote on the runoff. So again, tonight we pushing. I'm gonna be on the radio when I leave here with you. Try to encourage folks to register, teach them how to register online, because a lot of folks are not aware. And also those that do not have access to the internet, they have the form. We're gonna help them with filling out the form and make sure that it's postmarked tomorrow. So we have a lot of work to do. And furthermore, December 14th, that's when early voting starts here in Georgia. Again, encourage people to go to early voting, because you never know. Waiting for January. One thing about Atlanta's weather, January is maybe the worst month because it rains a lot. Sometimes we have snow, believe it or not, or ice. So the earlier we get into the process, the more we can ensure that we're gonna blue up the Senate. And
That's right. Make sure we say when we say blew up, we're not talking about BLEW. We're talking about BLUE.
UE, exactly. I'm glad you made that distinction. So we have to do that. And another thing too is we always have the tendency to sit back and wait and say, oh, so and so did not do for us. But one thing we're trying to overcome this time is be upfront. It be on the front line to say, no, we're not gonna wait for them to do for us, because if we don't speak, they don't know exactly what our needs are. We have to
Mm-hmm.
be the spokesperson for our needs. So that's why we're pushing people. And now we have a Haitian lady, in the administration. So in order for her to speak for us, we have to show, support for her, and we have to be able to talk to her about our agenda. What exactly do we need? Because we always assume that because my needs are X, Y, and Z, everybody would definitely know what my needs are. No, we want to be the one to speak on our own behalf. And again, by showing support for others, others can show support for us. And this is where we
Absolutely.
are. Mhm.
Absolutely. Very well said, Franz. Very well said. But one thing I'm going to say, though, is the fact that the way this movement is going, it requires many arms and it requires many hands. And how we say in Creole, "Mais en pile chai pa lou."
Exactly.
We are open to accept anyone to assist in the upcoming days as far as early voting is concerned. Because one lesson we learned from the presidential election is that early voting matters.
Correct.
Because during this pandemic, um, standing in long lines is not the way to go. So the earlier people vote, the better. So it's going to be important for us to get out the vote in the upcoming days. So we're going to need many hands to help us, make those outreach, make those phone calls to get people out to vote early, get their ballots and vote early. Another thing I wanted to really give you a big shout out for is the fact that you're seriously involved in something that Johnny and I have been very passionate about, something that we think our community truly needs: voters education.
Correct.
And I think this is also one of the areas that Have wants to focus on over the next 4 years. By the time the next presidential election gets here, people, may be educated, because our people have the tendency to think that it's only presidential election that matters. It's only the presidential election. Once the president is elected in office, forget about the assembly, forget about the council member, they don't care about, what's happening in their local districts.
Mhm.
Okay. They don't even know, who their senator is, who's their congressperson. And those things do matter because they're your local um, offices that are here. There's people don't understand that level of hierarchy
Mhm.
that exists, in the different levels of government,
That's correct.
right?
That's right.
So,
Right.
so it's important that people like yourself, myself, Johnny, or whoever, that's in media, make it their duty to educate our public,
That is
so they understand the laws of this land, because the way things run in Haiti is not the way they run here. So it's quite you know important that this work continues, that it happens, and that we somewhat function in a cohesive manner, and that we're very coherent about what we say to our public, so they truly get the facts and they get it straight, in a sense.
exactly.
So yeah.
Exactly.
So as far as the other organizations that are collaborating, tell us
Mhm.
about the organizations in Georgia that you guys have that exist. Do you guys have like a clergy association? How do you reach out to your pastors?
Well, we don't have an official clergy associations, but we do have association with different leaders, religious leaders that we are approaching and talking to. In fact, one of the radio that I'm involved with is a religious radio station, so I know the leaders are listening to us. And one thing that you mentioned, which is very important, is that it's not only presidential election. Okay. In
Mm-hmm.
fact, if you were to look at it, the presidential election does not impact our daily lives. You see, it's the local election. And that's one of that's one of our goals, to educate folks. We're taking this opportunity because of the way it's happening, because nobody thought about Georgia. In fact, you made a statement the other day. Oh, it's a Georgia versus Georgia and do you?
You didn't have to put me on blast, bro. Come on now.
but
you're still in New York. I'm still claiming you, Furman. You know, Jacques. All of you guys got to come back to New York.
Hey, we're helping to develop Georgia. Okay, that's why we're here. Yeah,
you got to come home.
The folks that are making decisions about our hospitals, our school system, you know, the street that needs to be paved, the trash that should be picked up. These folks, they are also elected officials. So we starting that education at a level, at the lowest level possible. And we're not assuming anything. We're not assuming that people should know or people do know. We're not leaving anyone behind. We want everyone to come with us, because it's gonna take everyone, like you said, okay? We're changing the dynamic of the top to bottom approach. We want to do from bottom up. So we realize that if we start now is a great opportunity, because everybody's talking about it. So now it's an excellent opportunity to be ready for the next 2 years. We'll be having election, and then 2024. You see, so by the time we get to 2024, I can guarantee you we will have the majority of Haitians in the Atlanta area, which covers about 15 different counties. They will be educated, they will be involved. Now, when we're talking about mobilization, we cannot say, well, we're going to mobilize, 100 or 200 or 500 people. But by the time 2022 or 2024 comes around, I can guarantee you we'll get the majority of Haitians that are living here. We had another event, which was the Census 2020, which I was heavily involved, to make sure that we know how many Haitians are here, because based on 2010 numbers, they said Atlanta has about 4,000 Haitians. And we know that's not true, because when class come here, there's about 750 people that goes to class. And we have about 105 churches, Haitian churches here, and most of them don't go to class. I didn't say all, but I said most, because I've seen some of them in class, with their notebook taking notes, you know what I mean? So we are mobilizing to get the presence of Haitian here in the Atlanta area.
So, friends, there's a pattern that I notice across the diaspora, and it seems like a lot of us participate in a lot of conferences, a lot of major events, whether it's in Haiti, in Washington, Boston, in major cities, and every time you go, you seem to be seeing the same faces.
True.
I don't know if you understand where I'm coming from. It's always the same people that are doing the same things. So how do we stop that pattern so we don't burn ourselves out? Or how do we build that legacy, or leave a legacy whereby we're training the younger generation after we're gone, or after we're no longer, or after maybe, we're in our old age and we can't mobilize like we do, because we're going up in our numbers and we may not have the same energy 20 years later. Who's going to be doing this? How do we get our younger generation involved to have the same passion, the same level of responsibility? Because if we were to say, okay, who are our leaders in Atlanta, Georgia? Everybody knows Franz Bouget. You're it. Because whether it's Haiti, a delegation for Haiti, a delegation to the White House, it's Franz Bouget. It's Soel Keta. Do you understand what I'm saying? Why is it always the same people? Well, if you go to Chicago, it's Lionel Jean-Baptiste, it's Marilyn Toussaint. Or do you understand what I'm saying?
So I understand clearly.
Always the same people.
Well, what happened is we have to look at the history of the diaspora. Okay, we have to go back in order to move forward. Now we are the second generation of Haitian Americans. Okay, our folks came here as immigrants. Okay, they came for one purpose, which is for a better life, not for them per se, but for us. Okay, to make sure that we able to have a good education, we able to understand, to with all the things that are going on in Haiti, they make sure that we have uh, uh, um, more opportunities than they did. Okay, so when they came, their whole they the only thing they were working on was, okay, to be able to get a job, okay, to be able to work and to make their way back to Haiti.
Of
See,
course, of
they were
course.
not thinking about establishing roots here in the United States. Okay, so they had no reason to understand the system. All they knew: I work, I get paid, I have a soul that I'm
I
involved
get my
in.
paycheck and I send money back home for my family.
That's it. I
Mm-hmm.
buy a house so I can go back.
Let me build my house in Haiti so I can go back when I retire.
Exactly, exactly.
Yeah.
So, for example, my parents, they came here in 1954, and it was
1954.
1954, and it was
Wow.
not until 1996 that my mom got her citizenship. You know,
Wow. They never
because
cared to get a citizenship
she
because
did
they were
not.
hoping to go back.
And the only reason she did is because the Republicans at the time, which had control of the House, they were talking about not giving Social Security to folks that are not citizens. And that's why she
Mm-hmm.
got her citizenship. You see? So now it's us, our generation that have been educated here, that understand the system. It is our job to pass that legacy forward. And another thing too is that in our community, unfortunately, we have to show success for other folks
Mm-hmm.
to follow. Because there's always
Mm-hmm.
a tendency to say, ah, Haïtien pas foreign. You comprend?
Mm-hmm.
Haïtien pas bagay. Haïtien magouille. So we have to show them the difference. And that's why folks like yourself, myself, and the small group that you're talking about, it is up on us. I know it's burning a lot of us out, but it is up on us to ensure that we have success. And by working with you in the United Front, by working with Sorel and the Haitian Alliance and the Georgia Chamber of Commerce and different organizations that we are involved, that's why it's a very good example. People are seeing not only we have those individual organizations that we are successful, but we able as a group to work together to come under the umbrella. Okay, because when you're with me and Sorel and all the other folks, they're not looking at different organizations. They're looking at the Haitians. You see, so
Mm-hmm.
it's our job. It's a
So, Franz,
challenge.
what would be your response to someone who say, "Oh, that's what I'm organizing"?
I would say they are very wrong, because you have a ton of diaspora organizations. Okay, so we are organized. If you have all these organizations, you are organized. We may not be, we may not be organized for one particular function. You see, we may not have come to the understanding of the needs to work as one group. You see what I mean? So now that's an example we're doing now. Look at it. You are in New York in your organization. Okay, Johnny Celeste is in New York. You have folks and Miss Vanessa Joseph. She's in Florida. Okay, but yet we have a project that all of us can organize ourselves to make sure that it's successful. So that would be a very good example amongst others that folks are able to see and say, okay, we have to change our mindset and move forward. My next goal is to be able to talk to our group, okay, our community, to understand finance, to understand the flow of money. This is what's going to help. If you want to build a community, the first level that must be the founding level is economics. Once you have a strong economic base, then we can build up on that level. So that's my personal goal in the next 10 to 15 years, to ensure that we understand the flow of money, because we cannot look at money as individuals. Say, "Come, bam." Yes, it's true. You work for it, it's yours. But how do we funnel the money? I'll give you an example. The lady that was talking earlier, she said, "Well, the diaspora sends what $3 billion to Haiti out of
Mm-hmm.
a $8 billion economy." That's about 37% of Haiti's economy, right? But because it's not organized, you see, we don't see the impact of it. As individual, we know the impact because when you send money to your cousin, your aunt, you know you're doing something for them. But if it was channeled as in a project, then we will be able to see, okay, it's the diaspora that built this hospital, it's the diaspora that built this school, this, different projects. So that's what we need to work on. A lot of times folks will look at, oh, look what the Jews are doing. But the Jews has been here for generations. We're just starting. You see, we only in the what, second or third generation of Haitian American. So again, it's our job to connect the old and those that are to come. You see, I know it's a hard job, especially for you. Now you're looking at your time. You have another.
No, it's not even that. It's not even that. It's like you and I have. It's like there's so much for us to talk about, and I have this burning question, and I'm going to ask you that question, Franz, based on my experience with you traveling back and forth to Haiti over the years versus the current situation now versus the state of the country now. Me knowing your hard work, your hard contribution into your, in terms of, your contribution to improving economic development in Haiti, you working with the cultivateur, the people, that are growing coffee, trying to establish, une raison d'être, pour ces gens défavorisés, comme si these people have no hope. You've showed them the way. You've shown them, how to make something out of nothing. You've showed them how to be true entrepreneurs without having gone to college. You understand what I'm saying? It's not like they never, and you've valued the little bit that they've had and broaden their horizon. This is, in my view, this is what you've done in that particular region of Haiti, right? And yet, on another side, you have a bunch that are busy destroying, teaching young men how to get involved in violence, killing.
Right.
So, diaspora ap ranger, et puis yo même l'autre boy ap gaye.
Right.
So when we start suffering from diaspora fatigue, okay, when a person like myself who was going to Haiti every summer to work with teachers, okay, or, since 1986, I've been involved in contributing, pay scholarship for young girls and boys to continue with their education, to go to school. I have several schools that I support in Haiti, right? I'm not rich, but I do it because I know the hardship that these parents go through to send their kids to Haiti. I do it because I was able to come here to the States where, you know what, I didn't need to have money to get my high school diploma. I was able to get, free education. I was able to get grants. So that was my way of giving back. But while you're doing all of this, these are the same kids that I'm investing in, and somebody's taking those same kids and say, oh no, you don't worry about it. Listen, this is what you should be doing. Here's a gun. Here's some firearms. Hit the streets.
Right.
Engage in violence.
Right.
Or 2 years later, after this kid graduated, and I'm seeing his body on the ground. Well, so what happens to my contribution as a diaspora?
That's
that kid is traveling he's going to Brazil.
Right. That's a very good point. In life, you have folks that are visionaries. Okay. You have long-term vision. You have short-term vision. Okay. People that are building, the builders, are long-term visionaries because you're not looking at yourself, how you're going to benefit. You're looking at the generations to come. Whereas those folks that have short-term vision are looking at themselves. It's me, whatever I get. Okay, if I give this guy a gun, then he's not my problem anymore. Okay, he can go out and get his life going. But what he does not understand, the one that's giving the gun, is at one point that gun will come back to you. You see, you're not building any type of characters in that person to show them, look, we have to look at the collectivity. If Jean-Jacques Dessalines, Toussaint, Pétion, Christophe, Cabral-Amor, these guys did not look at their current situation. Okay, if they were, they would not have sacrificed their lives to give us that 27,000 square kilometers that we call Haiti right now, because they know, oh, I'm not gonna be around, I'm gonna die, so let me, benefit in what I have. But no, what you're doing, what I'm doing, and others that are working like we are long-term visionaries. We want to see 200 years from now, what will they talk about? 1804? No, we want them to talk about 2020. What happened in Georgia in 2020? How Haitians from all around the country came together to do this, that, or the other, that 200 years from now, the generation will be benefiting on the work that we did. Here in Georgia, we always talking about 1779. What happened in 1779? You had the volunteers that came from Haiti and helped the United States fight the Battle of Savannah. Okay, now if you go down to Savannah, you will see there's the gentleman in Miami that worked hard to put
Dr.
a
Rudy.
monument. Excuse me?
Dr. Rudy. Dr.
Dr.
Rudy.
Rudy was involved, but the person that yeah, Dr. Moise was involved. No, I'm talking, I can't think of his name right now, but he was involved. He was the one that started the process. He passed maybe 2 years ago.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Oh, Delato?
No. Not Delato. I think of his name as we're talking, but he was the one to fight to ensure that a legacy is here in Georgia, because we had about 1,500 soldiers that came, included Henri Christophe, who was only 15 years old. Okay, he started the jitney bus. Daniel.
Yes. Yes.
Yes, Daniel. Daniel Fils-Aimé. Daniel Fils-Aimé. Okay, so hey, look, it's something that he did that he realized generations to come will benefit.
Just reminded us that Daniel Fils-Aimé.
Daniel Fils-Aimé. Okay.
Yes.
So these are the type of work that we are doing. And years from now, again, the generations to come will talk about Mona Lisa, Franz Bourget, Sorel Keita, Johnny Celeste. These, so they'll have something to follow. And again, it's based on success. If you are successful, people will follow you. And this is the one thing we have to talk to our other colleagues who say, look, don't look at the benefit, what you're going to benefit from it right now, but look what we're going to leave behind. As we said, because our time are limited. We don't know when, but everybody has a limit. So
my last question for you, out of all your work, out of all your contribution to the diaspora, I know you started from way back when with HDF, the Haitian Diaspora Federation.
Oh, I started way before that.
Way before that. Way before that.
Yes.
Okay. Up until now, what are some of your moments that you're most proud of?
Several. I was at a very young age, I was the representative of the 10th department for the state of Georgia. That was an eye-opener. I learned a lot from that. And maybe
platform with Marcel Wa?
Excuse me?
Are you talking about that platform with Marcel Wa?
They were Marcel. No. Before Marcel Wa. That was back in 1990 when Aristide became president, and we had La 10e Department. When they started talking about 10e Department, I was one of the representatives for the state of Georgia. I learned a lot, and that's where the love came in to, okay, I got to do more. Then I did a project in Lagonal. I'm not from Lagonal, but there was a project, an economic development project that Sorel tricked me into. Oh, you gotta love this. They had this project where women were sewing and making little, items to be sold here in the US. And the lady that was running the project was a white lady, right? And she was talking to Sorel. And she told Sorel, oh, I need a seamstress, someone that can run this project, has to be a woman, and so on and so forth. So Sorel called me. So I said, man, I think I have a project for you. I'm like, okay, great. What is it? He said, what? It's in Lagonam. I'm like, okay. He said, but I think you'll do well. But he didn't tell me what it was, right? So we had a lunch meeting with this lady, and I'm sitting, and the lady's acting so well. So where's the person that you're talking about? So I said, that's him. She said, but that's not woman. And to make a long story short, that project lasted 3 years, and I became very familiar with Lagonav, and I mean the folks, they loved the project. The women learned a lot. They were able to earn some money to start their own little business, to send their kids to school, and so that was one of my proudest moment, because you were taking big business concept, okay, that you learn in university here, and taking them and translating and making it fit the culture. And where I went in Lagonau, Lagonau has two main cities, Ansagale and Puerto Raquet. But I went somewhere that's called Namango. Okay. Now, the name itself will tell you how deep into Lagonau that was. But to go in there and teach these folks, teach them how to write, okay? Because I told them, when you get paid, I need you to sign the paper. I need you to write your name that you received the money. And some of them, that was the first time they've seen their names printed on paper.
Wow.
And it was a blessing to be able to be there with them. They understood me. And I tell you one more thing. When we were there with a group of white missionaries, and I was doing the translations and all, and I told the ladies, I said, look, you guys, here you are hugging these foreigners, so to speak. And I was telling them in Creole. I said, and here I am, me as Haitians, you guys are not even hugging me. And all of them came and hugged me. And these folks were like, what did you say? What did you say? I said, if I tell you, I have to kill you. Yeah, but
I know you have a mega project that you're working on. I truly want to give you an opportunity to talk about that project with Morehouse. Why are you hiding that from?
I'm not. I knew you were coming there. I'm not hiding it. With the COVID going on, and with the way the minority communities have been hit so hard, so Morehouse had gotten a grant from NIH, the National Healthcare Institute, NHI. So they came to me, because I've worked in projects with them before, and asked, how can we build a network in the Haitian community where we can disseminate information that's coming from, the CDC and all these folks about how to handle the COVID situation, how we can take that information, translate it into our own language based on our own culture, and disseminate that information in the Haitian community. So we started last month in October, 2 months ago, we started, where what we are doing right now is going into 5 different states: New York, New Jersey, Massachusetts, Georgia, and Florida, where there are a lot of where the, have a lot of Haitian communities, I mean big Haitian communities, and trying to find out the resources that are there as far as media outlets, and start passing that information so we can get different community-based organization and religious-based organization to join that network, so we can ensure that the proper information is going throughout our communities. And this is, since you asked that, and I know my buddy, my pal, my sister is gonna is gonna help us to ensure that we are successful in that project, especially in the New York area.
I thought your sister had already started before the project even launched. That's what I thought, but okay.
My sister has been with me all along.
Okay, okay. Your sister will always be there. You know, once it's for the Haitian community, I'm there. So, friends, it was a pleasure having you. I want to give you one last chance to put out your call to the rest of our brothers and sisters to join us, to join me, join you. And I also, before we leave, I must send a special shout out to those who are on the line right now watching us. My brother Donald Saint Jean, who was one of my biggest sponsors in the work that I'm doing in Jeremy. First, I don't know if you remember Donald. Donald was the vice president for Hack.
Yes, I remember.
He was with Florida when we have our retreat.
Yes.
At the end of that year. Okay. Donald was so kind and generous to support our women in Jeremy at the Julia and Jade Foundation. When they broke into our program, they stole all our technology, and he donated a wonderful. I didn't want to say it on the air like that, but he was very generous to us. Let's put it this way, because I don't want these people to come in and do whatever they did again. But Donald Saint Jean, I'm forever grateful to you, my brother. I could not help but to shout you out for being so generous, so gracious. Thank you for respecting the work that we're trying to do. Thank you for understanding it. George Gabriel Paul is forever grateful. The women that we're working with in Jeremy are forever grateful. Thank you for being such a great supporter. I have my colleague, Milton Myers, who's also watching. Thank you, Milton. Thank you, Marie-Ange. Thank you to all our viewers. I also want to thank my brother, Valerio Senwi of Teleimage, who has partnered with us to ensure that this show is aired on his platform as well. So the number of our viewers has increased tremendously. And we really want to send a very strong message to our community. When we say l'union fait la force, we truly mean it. And when we put our heads together as Haitians in this diaspora, we can do great things. So together we are definitely stronger. And I think this is what we're trying to exemplify in Georgia. This is why some of us who were part of IC and Biden, who worked on that campaign during the summer and in this past recent election, we have Marie Laplante, who recently joined us. Friends, I don't know if you saw on the platform, I added some of the ladies onto that platform. I have Sabine French from New York, who has joined us. You know, Rose Brunvik Samar, you know, who's another strong woman out in Georgia. Yes. She and her husband called out, you know, they called me last night. I want to send a special thanks to Congresswoman Yvette Clarke, for being, you know, who I made a phone call and ask her to join us. And last night she was out there with us to ensure that we get out the vote. So you know what? We're not in an isolated island by ourselves. It takes teamwork to make the dream work. I'm very proud of the people who surround me with their advice, with, you know, support me in whatever way that they can. Some people are only a phone call away, and you call on them, they're always there. So friends, it's your turn, you know, to you know, put out your pitch, you know, let them know what your needs are, brother, so they can join you in this fight, because we are not out here to lose. We want Georgia to have as much support as possible, because in this upcoming week, I mean, I'm going to continue to do what I do with the office of John Ossoff. I'm also joining Reverend Warnock. Okay. We have a team of phone bankers who are standing by to make sure we get these votes out early. So your turn, brother, with the last words.
I want to first and foremost thank you for giving me the opportunity to be here with you today to talk to our community. Yes, here in Georgia, we need help. We need your help. We have a Facebook page, that's Georgia Haitian American Citizen Group. You can visit that page. We will have information there and how the specific help that we need. But right now, the phone banking is one that is definitely necessary because of the COVID issue, we cannot get together physically, but we can definitely do the phone banking. We can join on those Evite that we're doing, those virtual events. We have one coming this Saturday, the 12th at 6:30. Again, go to the platform, Georgia Haitian American Citizen Group, to be connected. We have one on the 19th, and I think we are daring to have a march and sometime in December. That date is not firm yet, but one thing I can say for those of you,
can we call it a caravan funds?
yes, we will definitely have the name, the proper name for it in the days to come. But
We're still planning.
we're still planning, and we are working with, we are talking with the camp for John Assaf and also Reverend Raphael Warner to be with us, on the 19th. That'll be the 19th of December, again at 6:30. So every Saturday from yesterday on, we will have an event. And again, go to Georgia Haitian American Citizen Group. You'll be able to connect and see exactly what we're doing. And you can send us information. We can share numbers. We can do all kinds of things to get you guys involved.
Can you also share the Facebook page, funds for the group, for our group, for the Georgia?
Yeah, Georgia Haitian American.
Yeah.
That's the one. That's the one we created.
Yeah. Okay, great.
It's Georgia Haitian American Citizen Group. Okay. There's a Creole name. I don't quite remember it, so I don't want to give the wrong name. But that one, if you go to the Georgia one, you will find the information necessary to be involved in what's going on. And I also want to shout out to a couple radio stations here in Atlanta that helped us a lot, which is Radio Grass FM. You can also get that on the internet. You can hear some of the programs that we're having, and also Omani Radio here in Atlanta. Okay.
Absolutely. You know what? It's always good to thank people because you're always going to need them. It's good to be grateful. On that note, I want to say thank you to Gary Napoleon, Leonie HERMANTIN, Jean-Andre Brutus, Evan Sloydan, who has joined us, John Laguerre, who's always there every show. John, thank you so much for supporting us. And on that note, I also want to tell those of you who have no life insurance, please don't take the chance of walking around without having life insurance. GoFundMe is not a life insurance. Call John Laguerre. John, please put your number at the bottom of the live so people can contact you. Lord Antoine, thank you so much for watching the show. Once again, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for being with us. We look forward to being with you again next Sunday. On behalf of Johnny, who's currently away, I want to thank you for your loyalty to the Mojo Show. We hope that you have a wonderful week. Enjoy the rest of your weekend with your family. Once again, Funds, thank you for being with us. We look forward to the partnership. You know what? We're going to continue, and victory is ours. On January 5th, we look forward to making a difference in the state of Georgia.
All right. Let's blow up the state. Have a good one.
I've never found someone like you.